I'm going to record this session completely. So after the session is over, I will upload it to YouTube, and then I'll send Mike the link, and then he can post it on his website, Facebook page, and what have you uh, so he can send it out to you know his folks on his blog and what have you. So in case they weren't able to make it tonight, they'll still be able to watch the program in its entirety. So, okay, so like I said, we got people signing in here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started since we want to be on time here. And again, welcome all the non-MPEG folks. It's nice that we had an opportunity to have you on board here to see Mike's presentation. But for the MPEG members tonight, I want to give those folks a quick update on some upcoming stuff, and then we'll go from there. So tonight's presentation, of course, is The Reality of Making Money as a Nature Photographer by Mike Moats. And again, this is Mark Perry, and we're with the National Photography Enthusiast Group. For those of you who are not familiar with MPEG, we've been around for 8 years. I currently reside in Bozeman, Montana. I moved here about 3 months ago and from Ohio. And so MPEG started back in 2008 as a local Cleveland, Ohio group. And then we expanded to regionally, and then we went nationally a couple years ago. So we have over 140 members from 15 states, I think it is. So we're pretty fortunate. We've got some great photographers and some people who love to teach and who love to learn and share. So we're really a pretty unique bunch of folks. If anybody's interested in knowing more about us, you can email me. Our website is mpeggroupusa.org, and our public Facebook page is facebook.com/GalloImagesOnline, which is my Facebook page, but I've combined the two, so I post MPEG updates on that page as well. So if you want to keep track of what we're doing and what have you, you're more than welcome to look at that. Okay, for the MPEG members that are present, just to give you a quick update, for 2015-2016, we currently have 145 members from 15 states. In 2016, we're still going to have 12 coordinators from 6 states. We just added Emil Davizuk as an advisory board member and a coordinator from the great city of St. Louis, Missouri. And Emil is actually planning a group shoot in St. Louis in 2016 in the summertime. In 2015, we had 28 group shoots, and we're going to decrease those. In 2016, we had members that actually said that we offered too much. And one lady said that we had so many group shoots she didn't know what to choose from. So we're going to decrease those in 2016. 2015, we had 20 educational webinars, and we're going to increase those a little bit. People really like the webinars. And we're always looking for outside speakers like Mike. And so if any of you non-MPEG members, if you have an expertise in a certain category of photography, much like Mike is in macro, and if you have expertise you'd like to share with our group, I'd be more than happy to entertain you as a webinar presenter. A lot of our webinars are presented by our members and coordinators, and we're always looking for outside speakers. So don't hesitate to contact me if you're interested in doing that. The MPEG renewals will be sent out January 3rd like they are every year. The annual renewal is $59 for a single person still, and $79 for a photographer couple, so that doesn't change for the members. And just real quick, if you have a member referral deductions, for every member you refer and they actually join MPEG, you get a $10 reduction off of your annual fee. So just make note of that on your check or your invoice when you return your fee that you had, who you referred, and you can deduct that from your fee. Upcoming webinars, we have one more webinar left this year, but it's really not an educational webinar. It's a webinar about what's going to change in 2016. And we're going to be presenting the 2015 MPEG Enthusiasm Awards. Every year we award awards to members that have shown great enthusiasm. They've actually they've either taken the opportunity to teach, or they share, or they have improved and learned. And this year we have 3 winners from 3 different states, and so we're pretty excited about presenting those winners. We've done this for the last few years, and we have actually on our website we have like a Hall of Fame of MPEG Enthusiasm Award winners. So we're pretty excited about presenting those. So December 16th will be that webinar. So all MPEG members are recommended to attend. We're going to talk about the 2006 changes. For instance, in 2016, we're actually going to go private. Our registration is open to the public right now. We've had a lot of people that would find us on Google, and consequently, they're really not true enthusiasts. And so, what we're looking for is a true photography enthusiast. So we're going to go private. So that means that to join MPEG in the future, people will have to be referred by current members, or they can email me and indicate interest in joining. And then we just want to make sure that you're a good fit. This is not a camera club, so all the MPEG members, of course, truly understand that concept. We have no competitions. We're all about you learning or teaching and sharing. And then the Lightroom webinar that we just did to the MPEG members, I'm going to be posting that video. We did a 2-hour Lightroom interactive webinar, and I'll be posting that video on the website so you guys can access that video if you didn't make it. Group shoots, 2016, we have a Yellowstone and winter group shoot. We have 2 seats left. We have 7 member attendees and 1 spouse. I'm the coordinator. We're going to do 3.5 days in the northern range in our own vehicles, and then we've got 2 custom snow coach days that we're going to be doing the interior of the park. And then one day we're going to do the Montana back roads with a lunch at actually, we're going to have lunch at my new home here in Montana on the last day. And as always, there are no photography tour fees. The cost is basically getting you here and back, and the snow coach cost, which if we get a full 10 people, it'll be less than $350 for 2 days of a custom snow coach, which is really an unbelievable deal. And of course, as always, we always post the new 2016 CLED group shoots, usually by March 31st. But we got the winter and Yellowstone ongoing now. We have 2 seats left. So any MPEG members that are out there that are interested in shooting in Yellowstone in winter, let me know as soon as possible. Okay. And then let's see. I think that's yeah. Okay. So I guess we're ready to roll here with Mike. If anybody, all of you know Mike Moats. Mike is a great guy. He's out of Michigan, but he goes everywhere. And just I've known Mike for a few years now. He's been a great MPEG and supporter, and recently Mike gave some workshops for PSA here in Yellowstone. So Mike had never been to Yellowstone before, so I offered to show him around. If he would take me up on my offer, I'd be more than happy to give him a quick tour. So he says absolutely. So Mike came over to the house, and I took him out for a day and give him a real quick tour of Yellowstone. That we did the whole loop road, and we had all kinds of fun. And even on the way to Yellowstone, we ran into a little herd of bighorn sheep right along the road, so that was pretty cool. A little different from Michigan. So without further ado, I'm going to make Mike the presenter, and then we'll get started. So Mike, I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter, my friend.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
You bet. I'm great. And you should have.
Right, are you seeing my screen?
I sure do. So there you go. You're
All
on,
right,
Mike.
I'm up, huh?
Yeah, and just real quick, if anybody has any questions for Mike, put them in the question box, and then if Mike doesn't see them, I'll go ahead and read them to him. The other thing is that I got somebody says they don't have sound. You may want to log out and log back in. Sometimes that corrects it. You may want to check your sound settings. But if you don't have sound, you'll certainly have sound on the recording. So you won't miss out on anything. Okay? Okay, Mike, you're on.
All right, so thanks for attending, and this is hopefully something that will interest a lot of you on how we make money as nature photographers, and also, as I say, the reality of making money, because it's a lot different than it used to be. Um, and so I'm going to start off by just explaining how I got started. I decided in 2001 that I wanted to explore nature photography, and I've always been a fan of some of the outdoor photography magazines, but I never actually bought a camera. And so in 2001, I went to the bookstores, bought a book from John Shaw, one from Art Wolf, and read on what I needed for equipment, and then went to eBay and purchased used equipment on eBay. So that was kind of nice, saved a little bit of money by buying used equipment. So for 3 years I practiced, and unfortunately in my area where I live there was nobody offering any workshops in photography, so it was basically learn on your own, and at that time it wasn't into the internet yet and hadn't discovered the internet, so basically just learning and being self-taught and learning by trial and error. So in 2004 is when I found the internet, and that opened up a whole new world for me, because it was a place that I could go and learn more about what I wanted to do. And I joined some of the photo sites. Naturephotographers.net is one, and there was one called naturescapes.net. And so joining those sites, there were critique sites, and the nice thing is that I could post my pictures there and I could get help from some of the better photographers that were there. So that was a really nice experience. In 2004, we're still kind of 1 foot in film and 1 foot in digital. People were just starting to get into digital, which is when I got into it. And I realized at that point that was the future of photography. So when I started on the photo sites, I found that there was some good photographers out there, but nothing like we see today. Today there are so many great photographers out there, whereas back in the film days and just starting in the digital, there were some good photographers, but there were just a small group of really good ones that were the pros that were up there at the top, and a lot of just average photographers. But the internet and digital is really what helped people grow as photographers, and so there's so many more good photographers now. And in 2004, if you were a pretty decent photographer, you kind of stood out from everybody else. And so I was pretty lucky. I was doing pretty well, and I was getting images that were looking maybe above average for what was being posted at the time. And so kind of started to make a name for myself on those sites, by posting all my leaf images and that, and flower images. In 2004, I had sent in some images to Outdoor Photographer magazine. My brother actually said, he goes, you got a lot of nice images, maybe you could see if you could get some of these published in the magazine. And so that was my goal. My goal was to try to get an image published in a major magazine. And I figured if I was to ever succeed at that, that would be good enough. So in 2004, I sent in images to Outdoor Photographer magazine, and this image that you see of the fern on the burn log was published in Outdoor Photographer. It was my first submission, and I got published, so I was pretty excited. I remember when that happened, I called every single person I knew, family, friends, photographers, everybody, and was just so excited. And the thing about that image being published, excuse me, I had to clear my throat. The thing about that image being published is that it fuels the fire. You get that first image published and you think, well, hell, if I can get this one published, maybe I can get some more published. And so started submitting to other magazines, and sure enough, I've got images that were being published in different magazines, and then decided that I would send in an article, see if I could get an article published, and it wasn't but 6 months after that first image of the fern was published that I'd gotten an article published in Outdoor Photographer magazine. So I was pretty lucky. Again, in 2004, there still wasn't a lot of really good photographers that were emerging yet, but nowadays it'd be a lot different. My images don't stand out as much now as they used to, because there are, so many great photographers that are just equally as good as they produce images that are just as good as my images. So don't quite stand out as much. Makes it a little bit tougher too for us that way. So what does it take to make money with this? Well, obviously you have to have great images, right? So again, I've been very fortunate that I've had images and articles published in these magazines, and I've won awards, and at art shows that I've participated in, I won ribbons for awards and all that. And so you know, you kind of have to have good images in order to get those awards and get those magazines. So number one, before you can make any money, you obviously have to have some pretty good images. What else does it take to make money? Well, knowing business. I was fortunate that I was in business for about 20 years between a custom woodworking business and I was a painting contractor. So I had 20 years of experience running a business, and that helps a lot. Knowing about marketing and accounting and what it takes to run a business is very important. And the people that are successful as photographers that are making money and doing it full time generally are good business people, and that's why they're able to make a successful business out of it. Lots of hours, obviously. Through time spent on the internet marketing ourselves. You know, I have to go through and do my taxes from last month, which I haven't done yet, so I have to work on that. I'm away from home a lot, so the workshops that I do on the weekends, I'm traveling. So this weekend I'm going to Charlotte, North Carolina for a workshop, and then generally I probably spend about 25 weekends a year away from home, so that's a little bit you know, tough on your family life, especially if you have kids and that. Luckily my kids are all grown and moved away and all that, so I don't have that to deal with. Wearing a lot of hats. You know, you basically have to do everything. We're responsible for doing it all. Unfortunately, most photographers are not making enough money to hire people to run their businesses for them, so generally they end up doing everything. They have to be responsible for the marketing, and again the accounting, and booking hotels for workshops, or if you do art shows, booking the art shows, and taking care of all of that stuff. So it's a lot of time, a lot of work involved in it, and marketing is your #1 priority. I always tell new photographers, no one knows you're alive and in business unless you tell them. So it's what some people refer to as shameless self-promotion. And if we're not out there spreading the word, then obviously we're not going to make any money at this. And so I have done a lot of shameless self-promotion myself on the internet through all the different websites and that I've gone to, and now we have Facebook and Twitter and all those great places that we can promote ourselves. And you know, when you're out talking with people, you know, you mentioned you're a photographer and you tell them, you know, maybe you're doing workshops or you're selling images, those types of things. And so we have to be able to do that in order to allow people to know that we're in business. I always tell people that I got my start on those sites that I joined in 2004, and those sites were able to get my name out there basically, you know, across the world. And so I always recommend to people that are starting out to join different sites, join groups on Facebook, and post your images and let people see what you're doing. So again, you can spend a ton of time doing this, obviously, and that's what's going to be required if you're going to get your name out there, especially if you want to eventually teach workshops and things like that. You have to be out there and be communicating with people. So you'll want to get your own website started, of course. I started out on it's called P-Base, and it's actually a place where photographers go and they set up little galleries, and it's an open community amongst all the people that are on P-Base. So basically when I'm on there, everybody else that's on P-Base can see my image as well when I post. But I've just set that up as my website. Now, one thing about running a business is that you want to keep your overhead down, because obviously the less money you're spending, the more money goes into your pocket. So I have thought about, maybe one of these days I'll get a new custom-made site and spend monthly fees and all that kind of stuff. But my site works fine. It's simple, and it only costs $23 a year. So some of the sites that I've gone to, looking at custom websites and also what it costs to host those sites, you can spend $23 a month, and so that can run you a lot of money over a course of a year. So my site works. It's simple, and it's not as elaborate and fancy as some of the other sites. But you know what? Most people that are coming there, they're not really worried about how fancy my site is. They're there to view images. The image is what's going to impress people, not the website. So again, $23, pbase.com. You can set up your own website right there, real simple. A blog is another thing that those of you that have followed me, and possibly a lot of you that are listening have been on my blog. It's just www.mikemoatsblog.com, and that is where I go and I post information about macro photography, or if there's some equipment out that's new, or if there's sales going on at Hunt's Photo, or just general information that I can pass along. It's something that, again, it's another way to communicate with people, to let them know about you. You get them coming into your blog on a daily basis, and in hopes that they may eventually buy an ebook, or maybe take a workshop when I promote a workshop if I'm in their area. So the blog is a marketing tool. It's something that I give out free information. I give out how-to information on macro, and those people that come there on a daily basis get free information. But at some point, if I'm in their area, they may sign up for a workshop. The thing about a blog is that you have to be consistent. You can't set up a blog and go on there once a month and post, because nobody's going to follow you. You need to be consistently out there. I'm on there almost every single day. I might miss a half a dozen days in a year, but generally most people that follow me, they know they're going to see a blog post almost daily, sometimes 2 a day. I've had sometimes 3 a day, but generally at least 1 post a day. Now, when you give out information on a blog, obviously that blog is there to help promote your business, but you have to give information that has some value to the people that are coming there. If they're going to come there every day and all they're going to hear is you talk about your workshops and your ebooks for sale, they're not going to come back for, they're not going to stay with you very long. So you need to give out some kind of information that has some value to the people that are going to come there, so that keeps them coming back on a daily basis. So social media, you got your Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Google Plus and LinkedIn. There's all kinds of sites that you can go to. And what I found is for my business that Facebook works the best. I found that Facebook has the age group of the people that attend my workshops. My workshops are attended by people that are generally about 55 and up. And I found that Facebook seems to have that kind of generation in photographers that are in there. Twitter seems to be more younger people. Google Plus, I don't know, that's been kind of a waste for me. I get nothing out of Google Plus. Instagram, again, kind of more younger people, but Facebook seems to be the best place for me to get responses and post my workshops and ebooks where I get response and get people sign up for those. So, and I'm out there every single day. Those of you that know me from Facebook, I'm on there every day on different sites, and I've got groups set up. One's called the Macro Madness Geeks, where you can actually post your images on the group, and it's a lot of fun. People, get to view all the different images from photographers and different types of subject matter and different compositions, and they can learn and study. And of course, YouTube is another huge thing for photographers, and so you've got videos on YouTube, and I've got, I don't know, something like 70 videos on YouTube. A lot of them are how-to videos, so you can learn again, and those are all, again, marketing tools. It all goes back to that marketing thing where you're pulling people into those social media sites to help bring people into workshops or maybe buy ebooks. So you may have someone that's that is a member of my blog, or maybe they've seen my YouTube videos, and then they tell their members of their camera club about me, and they go check this guy out, and so you bring in new people. So word spreads by word of mouth. So selling through a website, I just did a blog post about this 2 days ago, and it was kind of interesting because when I do blog posts, if it's a pretty successful post, it's a post that draws a lot of people in, I might get maybe between 200 and 300 people might view that post if it's a really interesting post. A lot of the posts that I do might get less than 100, but a real good one would get 200 to 300. So the other day I did one on making money selling your photos. It had 2,000 hits over 3 days. 2,000. I mean, it just blew away the next closest best blog post I ever did. And it just shows that there's so many photographers out there that want to make some money doing this. And so again, it gets back to all the competition and all the great photographers are out there, so it makes it a little bit tougher and tougher to try to make money. But talking about selling my images through my website, and I've discussed this with a lot of the pros that I've gotten to know over the years through a lot of the photo conferences I go to, and I ask them, do you sell anything on your website? Nah, we don't sell anything. I hear it over and over and over. Now, my website, which has over 800 images and averages, my website averages between 700 and 800 hits a day. And over the course of this year, I have sold 0 of my photos. And now some people will say, well, you don't have a cart system on there. Well, I did have a cart system the first few years I was in business, and hardly anybody was buying. I'd sell 1 or 2 images a year, and I took the cart system off because it was costing me money. So I took it down, and I just put a little blurb on there about if you want to buy an image, contact me and I'll sell it to you. But I'm not selling anything. And again, I'm not any different than all the other people I talk to. It seems to be across the board. Most everybody I talk to, they're just not selling images through their website. Now, when I get those 700 or 800 hits that I told you on my website a day, the problem is those are photographers that are coming to my website. They're not people looking to buy images. Now, if I was able to somehow spend money advertising that I had images to sell, I could probably get more people coming in to buy my images, but that would cost me a lot of money to advertise. And then I'm also trying to sell my images, competing with all the other photographers that are trying to sell their images, and people that are selling them at art shows, and people that are selling them at Walmarts, and all the Kirtlands and the Ikeas and all the other places that sell them super cheap. So it's very tough selling your images through a website nowadays. Now, of course, there's always an exception. Somebody will say, well, I sell a lot of images, and that could be. But I've talked to enough pros to know that there's nobody making any big money selling their prints on a website. So, that's something that you have to decide, whether you want to attempt it or not. I think it's good to know that it's not real popular place to sell your images, just so that you don't realize that well, my images must not be any good because nobody's buying them. Well, there's a lot of great photographers with great images, and they're not selling them either. So don't feel bad if it doesn't work out for you. Most people, when they start out selling images, and this is where I kind of started too, when I first, in 2004, I started hitting some of the galleries in the area where I live, north of Detroit, in the suburbs outside of Detroit. And I did get into some galleries, and I sold a few pieces, but again, not selling anything that's going to make me any big money, just selling 1 or 2 here and there. And actually, all those galleries that I did hang my images in, none of them are in business anymore. It's very tough, small art galleries, independent art galleries, to make any money. And so all of those galleries that I was in back in the 2004, 2005, 6, they're all out of business now. But again, if you want to attempt and get into galleries, this is basically how you do it. You want to find galleries in your area or stores in your area, maybe gift stores, things like that. And you can do that by just driving up and down the streets. You may know of certain galleries in your area, or ask some of the other photographers or friends if they know of any galleries. You can do a search of your city and art galleries, and you'll on YouTube, or I'm sorry, on Amazon. Oh, not Amazon. Google. On Google, just do a Google search for galleries in your area with your city, and you'll see some that might pop up. And then once you find those galleries in your area, then you need to visit each gallery to see if your images fit in that gallery. So if you're doing nature photography, you want to go in that gallery and check out to see if they're hanging any nature photography in there. They might have all abstracts, and maybe your work won't fit in there. If you happen to find a gallery that may have some nature that's already hanging in that gallery, and you think that your work would fit in with that gallery, you don't want to just walk in off the street and ask the owner if they could look at your portfolio. You want to make contact with the gallery owner or manager prior to walking in there with your portfolio of images, and then set up an appointment with that person. See, they're not going to be too happy if you walk in and plop open your portfolio and say, here, take a look at this. So you want to make sure that you contact the owner or the manager of the gallery and ask them if you can set up an appointment where you can come in and show them your images. And then you need to find out basically how they operate as far as how many images you can hang in there. The pricing, of course, is what is the split. Usually it's 40%, for them, 60% for you, or a lot of them are 50-50 split. And then you need to determine how to price your artwork, see. And that's always a problem, because you're looking at trying to get, say, $200 for an 18 by 24, and then they're going to mark it up to $400 to sell it. And you have to look at the artwork that's already hanging in there and see if your 18 by 24 kind of prices out the same as the other 18 by 24s that are hanging there, so that you're not overpricing or underpricing. So those are things that you need to find out. And then you need to be prepared for the questions the galleries may ask. So do you display your images at other galleries in the area? And if you do, they might not want your images in their gallery. See, they want to usually be exclusive. And some of them even have, you can't be in another gallery within 25, 30, 50 miles of this gallery. And they want to have your images that are exclusive to their area and not hanging in the gallery down the street. So that's one question. Do you display at any of the local art shows? And that's a big problem too, because let's say you want to get $200 for the 18 by 24, and you're selling it to the gallery for for that $200, or you're putting it in there for $200, and they're marking it up to $400. So now you're at a local art show and you're out there selling it for $200, but down the street in the gallery they're selling it for $400. So that becomes a big problem. So you have to determine that if you're going to sell in that local gallery and then end up at a local art show, that you're going to be selling it for $400 at that art show, the same as it sells for that gallery. That gallery is going to pull it off the wall. They're going to also ask you, are your prints and materials archival? So are your mat boards and your prints and everything that you're using in the process that you go through to put this frame piece together, is it archival, so when they sell it to their customer they can tell them that, yeah, it's good for 100 years or whatever. So that's another thing. And then your prints, are they sold as limited edition and signed? And of course in gallery settings they're going to pretty much require that you sign it at least, and they're going to like it if it's a limited edition opposed to open edition. Now the limited edition thing is it can be a joke kind of, because a lot of artists, what they do is they have limited editions in one size, and then they start the same image in another size and start another limited edition, and then they'll change it to the next size and they'll start another limited edition. So it's not like when someone buys this image there's only 100 in the edition. There could be several hundred in different, because of all the different sizes they make it in. So that's something that you'll ask questions and find out from the art dealer that you're going to be working with on how they feel about all that kind of stuff. Some galleries will have openings for artists, and that can be, you know, a good thing because it advertises that you're there in that gallery, and they'll have a little Friday night or a Saturday night opening, and people will come and see your work, and they'll drink wine and have some kind of food there. Some of the galleries, or most of the galleries, will actually ask you to help pay for that. So in other words, if they spend $500 on food and advertising, you may have to chip in $250 of that $500 to put that on. Persist through any rejections you may experience, because you will receive rejections. That's just part of this business, and you know, you have to just kind of keep working through those rejections. So that's galleries, and that's generally where a lot of people start out, and that's kind of where I started out. And then there's art consultants, and I found when I started out in the art show business, I had some art consultants that found me at the art shows, and then they asked if they could purchase images, you know, for their programs and projects they were doing. And I got hooked up with a couple art consultants. The health industry is huge for nature photography right now, so hospitals and doctors' offices and clinics want nature photography. There are actually art consultants that their whole business is based on the health industry and buying nature photography. And this is just something that came about in, you know, the last few years, because in the health industry they did studies where they had patients, sick patients, in one room with nature photography and another sick patient in another room with abstract photography. And what they found is that the people that were in the rooms with the nature photography healed faster than the people in the rooms with abstract photography. So when they did this study and found out this nature photography helped heal people, well, guess what? Hospitals and doctors' offices, clinics that have learned about this all wanted to start hanging nature photography on their walls. So I had my first experience with this was our consultant out of Chicago had contacted me. They were doing a hospital, actually, it was in Michigan, and that new hospital is a brand new hospital they were building. They wanted $1 million worth of artwork, and basically it was all nature photography. So I had sold them 24 by 36 inch prints, 45 of them, and those are hanging in that hospital now. So when I realized this, I started to actually go on to websites of other art consultants. Just did a Google search, you know, art consultants, health, and found different art consultants that were in that business, and sent off emails to them, and, you know, said, here's my website, and they asked, you know, what is your pricing? They typically would like you to print them for them and just send them the prints, but some of them would want files, and if it was sizes that I couldn't print big enough, then they would go outside and get somebody else to print it. But those, you know, again, it's like selling your images online. You'll sell some, but you're not going to make huge money. It's just kind of one of my streams of income that come in and add little dollars here and there, but there's no big money in it. Don't think that you're going to get into that and make huge dollars. But that is one area that you could check into. Interior decorators, of course, that work with homes and offices and hotels, if you know any of those people, those would be someone to check into. As far as selling large volumes of images, the art show business is where you're going to do it. The problem with the galleries, it's very low foot traffic. In other words, some of the galleries that I was in, you know, I would come in and, you know, to deliver a piece of artwork, and I would talk to the owner, and I'd say, well, how are you doing today? And they says, well, we're doing pretty good. We had 10 people in today, and this was on a weekday, of course. 10 people. So out of the 10 people, you wonder how many are actually coming in out of those 10 looking for photography. So let's say if one of those 10 were looking for photography, what are the chances that one person is looking for nature photography? And what are the chances out of the 3 images that you're able to hang in that gallery, because that's the only space that the owner would give you is for 3 prints, 3 frame pieces. What are the chances that you pick 3 out of your portfolio images is going to work with this one person that happened to walk in off the street? Very, very low success rate because of the low foot traffic. Now, art shows, on the other hand, draws huge, huge foot traffic. In other words, Ann Arbor Art Fair, that was my largest show that I attended, drew 500,000 people to that show. And if you added, in my best year of 25 art shows, if you added all the attendance, estimated attendance of all those 25 shows, came to 2.5 million people. So you got to present your work to a lot of people. And that's why you sell higher volumes, is because you have more people coming to those shows. So the people that are making a living selling prints that I know of are doing it through the art show business. Now, the art show business, I started in 2005 and did very well for about 5 years. I was averaging between 3,500 and 5,000 a show, and the booth fees would run maybe 250 to 300, and you had some gas to get there and back, and some 20% of that was material cost. But I was making some pretty decent money on a weekend. So that went on for about 5 years, and I was pretty happy. I was doing some pretty good numbers, and everything was going great. And then the last 2 years, things started to fall apart, and sales dropped off dramatically. I'm talking about 50%, some shows even as much as 75% down. And that's when I realized that I needed to put more of my energy into teaching and get away from the selling at the art shows. Now, I do have some friends that are still in the art show business that actually make their living, in the art shows. They're not doing as well as they used to, but some of them are toughing it out, and they're getting enough to get by and survive, but it's not easy. I felt at the time that I had a big enough following that I could do my workshops and make my living doing that, and felt that that's where the money was at, so I got out of the art show business. But if you're going to go into the art show business, just understand, again, just like selling your work on your website, it's a tough business to make money at. So this is getting a setup, and this is kind of what you need, what you can expect to spend to get in the art show business. Tents are 10 by 10 is the standard size of art shows space that you're gonna rent. And if you get a good tent with some bells and whistles, you're going to spend about $1,500 on a good professional art show tent. The walls that will purchase, now you can buy walls cheaper, but the good walls, the ones that the pros are using, are about $1,500 plus. And the inventory, when I would go to a show, I carried about $10,000 retail of inventory, and the material costs were about $2,000 out of that $10,000. So 20% of my retail cost was what I spent in materials. Miscellaneous items, you need print bins, tables, artist chair, weights for your tent, bags, to put your work in for the customer, receipts, plastic bins for packing inventory for travel, all that maybe $500. So you've got, if you were to get started, you're probably looking at, $5,000 to $6,000. That would be on the low end to get everything going. Of course, then you'd want to get a printer and all that good stuff too, and that'll cost you some more money. The tents, this is the tent that I was talking about. LightDomeCanopies.com is the one that I used. This is a tent that'll hold up in the high winds and that, and so that you don't have the thing blown away on you, because if you buy a tent like this one, and you'll see these two musicians that are sitting under this little tent here. This is called an easy up tent. And it's called an easy up because it's easy to put up. The problem is it's also easy to go down when the winds get strong. And so a lot of those easy ups, after we get a strong wind, look like this. They're usually wrapped around trees, or they're all broken up and tore up. Now, if you look in the back, you'll see the good professional tents are still standing, but most of the easy ups on this storm that went through one night kind of destroyed most of these easy ups. So that's what I was saying. When you buy a tent, you want to make sure that you get the professional grade, the good ones, because the little cheap easy ups, which these little tents here you can get them as low as $160 $50, you know, and they do have a little higher grade ones that you can spend a little more money on, but you won't spend anywhere near what you do to get the professional tents. But if you're going to end up using one of these, you might want to take it down when you see a storm coming, because you don't want all your merchandise and all your stuff ruined. You know, it's not just the tent being ruined; it's all your other stuff gets scattered all over. Now, those tents also need weights, so most people in the business would buy these big plastic 6-inch PVC piping, put an end cap down at the bottom you can see, and then they would put cement in there, put an eye hook down in the cement, and then you can see the straps at the bottom, and those straps connect onto the corners of the tent. There's actually hooks on the tent that you can hook it onto, and then the other end is hooked onto the weight, and that weight holds your tent from blowing away. Because without the weight, the tents are pretty lightweight because they're made out of aluminum framing and just material, the vinyl material. So there's not a lot of weight there. So these weights here you see run about 40 pounds a piece. So you get about 40 pounds in each corner. The best walls are the Pro Panel walls. They're made out of a material like a carpeting material, and it looks very nice. Typically, most photographers use the black walls or the dark gray. Generally, you don't see the light color walls like they advertise here, but typically you see the black or the light gray. And then Pro Panel also sells their bins. So you see the little one on the left here. Those are the Pro Panel bins that'll match your walls so that everything matches. Or if you want to go cheap, Jerry's Artorama, you can see they have folding racks that can run from $29 to $59 for the larger sizes. So that would be a less expensive way to go. The ones on the left there, you see the fabric bins, they'll run you a couple $100 for those. So printing, obviously you'll want to get a printer because it's much cheaper than having it tired out. So when I bought my Epson 24-inch wide printer, I could then print 24 by 36-inch prints. It ran about $1 a square foot. So that 24 by 36-inch print cost me only $6. Now if I was to have that printed, say if you went to Office Max or Home, Office Depot or one of those places that print, it's $45 for that same print. So you save a lot of money by printing it yourself. And then of course the papers, I know photographers that go out and buy the expensive Hammermill papers or whatever that expensive paper is called. I didn't buy the expensive papers. I bought the cheap papers because, hey, this is a business. I'm trying to make as much money as I can. And the papers that Epson sells that are cheaper have the same archival rate as the more expensive papers. So, and the average person coming into my booth couldn't tell you from a good paper from a bad paper. They have no clue about that stuff. So I always bought the less expensive Epson papers rather than the more expensive papers that you see that are out there. You'll need to get mat board, foam core, tapes, frames, bags, all that good stuff. Now, if you have a local wholesaler that wholesales frame materials and all the materials to the local framing stores, you'll want to go there and set up an account because you're going to get your stuff way cheaper going that route than going to Hobby Lobby or Frank's Nursery or one of those places and buying your stuff retail. First of all, you won't even get the volume that you need going in and buying it retail at most local stores. But if you go to a wholesaler and you set up a wholesale account, and a lot of them will say you got to buy a minimum of $1,000 a year. Just say, yeah, I'm gonna do that, and then get signed up, and you'll get prices much cheaper going through a wholesaler than you will going to retail. Yeah, mat cutter. I used a LoganGraphics.com mat from LoganGraphics.com, and I think it only cost me $120. It wasn't an expensive one. They do have more expensive ones, but I bought a cheap one, and I got thousands of mats on that thing, and it worked fine. And then for hauling your equipment, I bought this hand cart. It was called the Rock and Roller cart, and it cost about $250, but it holds 500 pounds, and it's got pneumatic air tires on it so that it wheels really well. Because you'll be wheeling a lot of heavy stuff across grass and bumpy ground and all that, and so you got to have a good cart system to haul this stuff. Clear Bags is the name of the company that sells the bags that we slide our prints into. They have just tons and tons of different sizes, so pretty much any size that you need, you'll be able to find a bag for it. Transportation, so we talked about, well, you might be able to get this set up for about 5-6 grand, but here's the kicker, so you got to be able to transport all that stuff. And so this is usually when it gets to the point where people go, oh, I guess I'm not going to do this, because I'm not going out and buying a van to haul this stuff in. Now, if you have a van, then you're okay. But I had when I was in the painting business and I got started with my photography, I already had the van. I had a cargo van that could haul all this stuff, so I didn't have to go out and buy a van. But that's a huge expense now if you have to buy a van to transport all this stuff. The other option would be a trailer. You could buy a trailer that you could haul behind your vehicle. But you got to live in an area that allows you to have a trailer. Like I live in a subdivision where I don't think I could put a trailer in my driveway without someone complaining. So I would have to find a place to rent space to store that trailer when I'm not using it. Yeah, so that's a big expense, just the transportation to get all your gear to an art show and back. So if you do it, it's one of those things I've had people say to me, going, yeah, I'm thinking about doing the art shows, and I just want to do a couple a year. Well, no, you're not going to spend the kind of money it's going to take to get into the art show business and then just do a couple a year. You got to do at least 10 or better, to even try to recoup your money. And then there's no guarantee that you're going to make enough sales to recoup your money even. But there's always those exceptions. I tell you that I dropped out because I didn't feel the sales were there, but that doesn't mean that there aren't people out there that are doing okay at it. So it's up to you whether you feel that you have strong enough images and you have images that people can connect with, that you'll be able to make sales and make the investment to get into this. The jury process, when you get into the art shows, it's another whole thing. You'll spend lots of money on just jury fees. It could run you $25 to $35 to $40 just for the right to jury into that show, and you don't get that money back if you don't get picked. You lose that money. So I had I forget how many dollars I had tied up in just jury fees a year. And that's money that, again, is just lost. Even if you get into the show, you're happy, but if you don't get in the show, you lose your 25, 30 bucks. So that's something that when you send your images in, there's no guarantee that you're going to get in that show, especially nowadays, because there are so many more photographers trying to get into the art show business that it got tougher and tougher to get into the shows. It used to be that the jewelry people had the most applicants of all the applicants for the different artists. It was always the jewelers were submitted the most amount of applicants for the show, and now photography has gotten to where it's as many people submitting for photography as there is for jewelry. The problem is there's about half the amount of booths for photographers than there is for jewelry. So it makes it tougher and tougher each year for people to get in. Finding the shows, you can do that through Google searches. You can do it through a magazine called Sunshine Artist. Go to the sunshineartist.com. It's a monthly magazine for art shows. There's a book called the Art Fair Sourcebook.com, and that's a book that you can buy. It's fairly expensive, about 150 bucks I think it is, but it covers all the top art shows in whatever area of the country you want to buy for. And then there's another one called Zapplications, and that is the new system which most art shows are starting to use now, where you apply online to their shows, and it's done through Zapplications.com. So you can go to Zapplications, you can find all kinds of shows on there. And then of course the internet. Stock photography is something that I never got into because when I started into to making money doing this and talk to other photographers, what I was hearing is that stock photography was declining for the people that were making a living at it. Some of the photographers that I had talked to that were actually making over six figures, over 100 grand a year selling stock photography, were now making nothing, almost nothing. And some of them just kind of dropped right out of it. Art Wolf himself did an article on in Outdoor Photographer magazine about how his income was devastated. by the lack of sales from his stock photography. And it all started again, with digital and all the great photographers that started, submitting images through the internet. It was so easy to get your images on there, and they starting at micro stock sites where they were selling images for, $1. That became very difficult, obviously, to make money when you're selling images for $1. And you don't even get the dollar. If they sell it for $1, you only get 40%. That's only if you're exclusive to that stock site. If you're on different stock sites, you don't even get the 40%. You get less than that. So it's tough to make money in the stock photography business, and you can try it. Most of the people that are selling, it's not so much nature photography it's selling, it's more pictures with people in it. That's the kind of stuff they're looking for. So if you want to shoot people and environments, things like that, those seem to sell better. But just straight nature photography, it's not. There's no big money in that. So that's another route. That's again, I hate to keep saying all this stuff is bad news. That's not making a lot of money for us, but that's the reality of nature photography. You can create your own book. I actually published my own book because it's hard. It's almost impossible nowadays to find a publisher to publish, your book. If you go to the bookstore, I was at a Barnes & Noble the other day. There was like 3 shelves for photography. 3 shelves out of all those shelves in that bookstore. 3 shelves. It's just very, very difficult to find a publisher that will invest the money in photography books nowadays. And I think a lot of it has to do with the online. There's so much stuff online that it's hard to sell a book anymore. You can get all the free information you want just going to people's websites and going to blogs and going on to YouTube, and you type in anything on YouTube and there's somebody showing you how to do it. So it's hard to sell books nowadays. So I published my own book. I think it was in 2008. You can see this little insert here. This is from Amazon, and the book cost me $12,000 for 2,000 books. So it cost me $6 a book. And it's an 80-page softcover book. And I bought 2,000. I actually only have about 100 left. I'm almost out. But it took me since 2008 to sell them. And I'd sell them through photo conferences that I speak at or my workshops. And I sold them online through Amazon, and I sold them, on my website and that. I wouldn't do another book again. It's too much money you lay out. Not that you can't make money off of it, but it takes you a long time to get the return on your money. I would be doing ebooks rather than a paper book again. Now this paper book, if you see the price on here, $149. and what happened was when I stopped selling them on Amazon, there were companies, book companies, that would get a hold of the copy of this book, and because they would see that it wasn't available for sale new anymore, they started to post them on here used, and the prices, I've seen them as high as $350. So they raised the price way up because it's an out-of-print book, and they think that someone's going to pay that kind of money for it. I don't know if they sell anybody sells them or not, but there's actually quite a few on there for sale. And I think that's about the lowest price, about $149 for it. So creating an ebook is real simple. I do mine on PowerPoint. Actually, what you're looking at right here is a PowerPoint, and so I set up my pages just like a book, and then turn it into a PDF. So when I go to save the PowerPoint program, I save it as a PDF, and then I can sell it online as a PDF, and it costs me nothing. So when someone buys it from my website, I have 0 out-of-pocket costs for that ebook, whereas on that Tiny Landscapes book there, that softcover book, cost me $6. So the ebooks can sell for less money because we're not putting anything out of our pocket, which helps sell it. Compared to a book where we got to recoup our costs and that. If I sell my ebook on a CD at one of the photo conferences or in my workshop, it costs me about 30 cents to put that together. I buy the CDs and the envelopes and everything in bulk, and it costs me about 30 cents. So very little out of pocket. when we do an ebook. And so you can do this very cheap, whereas again, creating a book and spending $12,000, that's a big gamble if you have no place to sell those things. But an ebook, you can just create them as you need them, and it costs you basically nothing. So when I decided that the art shows were declining and I wanted to find new ways to make money, I decided that I was going to teach workshops. So I put up signs in my art show booth at the last few years announcing I was teaching workshops, and I had taught a lot of local workshops. And over the years, I had spent so many hours on the internet promoting myself through all the websites, the naturephotographers.net, naturescapes.net, birdphotographers.net, and on Facebook and Twitter and my blog and all those places that I had been spending communicating with photographers and showing my images and talking to people. I had built up a following, whereas I could go out to different cities across the country and teach workshops and sell out. So that's where I basically make my income. Now there are other avenues that I have what I call streams of income coming in from different directions, but the workshops is where the bulk of the income comes from. And a lot of those pro photographers that I had told you about that were in the stock photography, the guys that were just making a living off stock photography, once that income fell apart, they started teaching workshops. So you didn't see Art Wolf teaching as many workshops, when he was making his money in his stock photography, but you see him teaching workshops now. And guys like John Shaw and some of the other big name, guys that have been around for 30 years that have developed big names, when their stock photography all started to dwindle, they all started doing workshops. And so that's where most pro photographers, nature photographers, are making their majority of their income now. Now, if you're going to teach workshops, a lot of them that go to some of the national parks and that, obviously you got to know your location really well. So when you go out there, you're not fumbling around with your students. And then a lot of those locations you go to, the national parks are going to require that you get a permit. And they're really clamping down on that. Photographers are getting called out now when they're out there with a group, and the rangers are tracking them down and making sure they have permits. And those permits can be, fairly expensive, maybe $100 to $200. And then those permits, when you go to file for your permit, they're going to require that you have insurance policies in case someone gets hurt. And so they might require you to have $1 million worth of insurance, and so now you got to buy insurances. So there's a lot involved, and that's partly why when you sign up for a workshop with somebody at a national park, they're fairly expensive because of all that cost that goes into that, just putting on that one workshop. So that's something that, in order to teach workshops, you got to build a following first. You're not going to go out there and just put a sign out there and say I'm teaching a workshop and expect all kinds of people to sign out if they don't know who you are. So that's where all that marketing comes in, and it may take years and years on the internet of marketing before you get a name where you're going to be able to go around the country and teach workshops. You can sell articles to magazines, but of course there's no money in that either. Basically, if you get the top magazines, say like Outdoor Photographer magazine or some of the bigger name ones, generally how it worked out is you'd get 50 cents a word, and then you'd get $50 per image. So this article you see here, variations on a theme I did, it might have been 1,200 words, so I would get $600 for the writing, and then if it had 7, 8 images in it, I might get another $300, $400. So if you're lucky, you might get $1,000 if you're lucky. But how many times are you going to get published in that magazine? If you're lucky, you could get there once a year, once every 2 years. So so you're not going to make huge money, selling articles. And that would be Outdoor Photographer. That would be one of the big ones. If you get into the Nature Photographer magazine, which I've had articles published there and images published there, they don't pay hardly anything. You might get $100 for an article. So a lot of the lower, less, publicated magazines don't pay as much. So that's, again, it's one of those little streams of income. You can add a little extra income into your bank account, but you're not gonna make big bucks selling articles to magazines. Now, where these also pay off though is when I started with my first articles that I was getting published, I didn't really have anything to sell. So in other words, when someone would read the article, they'd go and view my images, but of course, the photographers weren't going to buy my images, but I didn't have any workshops or ebooks or books to sell at the time. So of course, all the money I only made was just off of the sale of the article to the magazine. But once you have those workshops and you have books or ebooks going, then of course you have something to sell so that you can make a little extra money once you have that article published in that magazine. So like an article like this one here, I might have, maybe pulled in an extra, $1,000 in sales and in workshops or books after that. So that's the key to it is if you're going to do articles, then you got to have something to make money after the article's out there, and that would be either again offering workshops or books, ebooks. Online workshops. So a few years ago, I started to offer a macro mentor course and a flower course, and that's where I do 12 sessions, and they're actually videos that I put together, and each session has multiple videos, and the person reviews the videos and then goes out and has a shooting assignment and sends in their images, and I critique them, and then they go on to the next session. And so those are like $249, and so that's another little avenue or stream of income that I use. Again, it's one of those things that you're not going to make huge dollars. I don't get a ton of people that sign up for that online course, but brings in a few extra dollars here and there each year. Webinars, just like this one I'm doing here. This is a free one, of course, but last year I did probably 6 or 7 webinars where I charged $10 a person, and so brought in a little extra money, through the webinars. Produce a video. That's another way you can, make a little money, is to put together a how-to video and sell it. I just finished up last month with Juan Pons, came out to Michigan here, and we did 4 days of video, and so hopefully next year I'll have a video that I'll put out there for sale. And so again, I won't sell, it won't sell tons enough to make a living at it, but you'll just bring in, a little extra money added on top of those other things. And then if you're out there teaching workshops, or you're out there in the public and you're building a following and you're teaching workshops and all that, then you can kind of pick up some sponsors, see? So like all my equipment that I have is all free other than my Nikon camera. Nikon doesn't give you anything. So, but all the equipment that I have, everything that I have outside of my camera is all free, because these companies know that I'm out there teaching workshops, and so they're willing to give you equipment because they know that you're going to be promoting it and they're going to be making sales when you promote it. So Tamron's my number one sponsor. They sponsor me for photo conferences and things like that. And then Benro and Topaz and Acrotech and LensBaby, Hunts Photo, Think Tank Photo, Vanguard, Faisal, all those people. Nick Software, Fuji, Vanguard, Panasonic, those are all sponsors that I've had. Either they're sponsors now or they had them in the past. And so it saves me dollars not having to buy equipment, so I get all that stuff free. And then sometimes they'll put ads out there and they'll throw you in an ad, or again, like Tamron sponsors me for a lot of the photo conferences that I speak at. Affiliate programs are programs that some companies will have affiliate programs set up so that when you go out there and promote their product, they will give you a code so that when people use that code to go into their site and buy that, you'll get a commission on that sale. So like this month here, Topaz has been running sales on a new program. They just came out and they'd had a Black Friday sale on their collection. And so I posted it out on my blog and I posted it all over the social media. And every time someone hits that link that I put into uh, my blog post or my social media post, and they go and buy that product, I get a commission on that. So it's money that we can pull in, again, a little bit of money from the affiliate programs. And again, it's nothing that you're going to make a living on, but it's just another one of those little streams of income that I talked about that, when you add all those streams up at the end of the year, you do pretty good actually. But it takes a lot of time and effort working at all these things. So when you see photographers out there, pros that are promoting a product and they say, here, use this code or click on this link, a lot of times they're going to save you some money. So a lot of the affiliate programs are set up so that when I promote it to you, I'm going to tell you that, if you use this code or use this link, you're going to save 10%, you're going to save 15%. So you're going to benefit, plus I'm going to benefit because I'm going to get a commission on that sale. Some people are set up. I never set it up because I was asked from B&H to set up a link with them, but I promote Hunt's Photo. I don't care to promote B&H, but there are a lot of people that promote B&H and they get affiliate programs through B&H. Adorama is another one that has affiliate programs, and a lot of these companies will have affiliate programs, so you can make a little dollars there if you can get your followers to buy things. Speaking of camera clubs, photo conferences, conventions, things like that. I do a lot of that every year. I probably did 10 photo conferences this year, and my sponsor Tamron paid for me to go to those conferences. Camera clubs, when I'm in areas, usually, people from different clubs will see I'm going to be in the area, and they'll say, can you come in on a Thursday night or a Monday night, around your workshop and speak at our camera club. Now the camera clubs, some of them have a little bit of money they can pay you. Some have no money. They have no budget to pay the speakers, and I've had some pay as high as $150. But generally, some of them will pay anywhere from 50 to 100. They'll have a kind of a budget for that. And where I make my money is actually off of selling my books and my ebooks. So when I go to a camera club to speak, I'll have my book and my ebook there, and I can make some decent sales. Sometimes I can get somewhere from $400 to $600 on sales at a camera club with ebooks and my book. So that brings in extra money too. So that's also another way to get your name out there, and it works real well if I'm going to be coming into that area doing a workshop to speak at that club or speak at a photo conference, and and tell them that, hey, I'm going to be in your area, in a few months, and I'm going to be teaching a workshop, and you'll fill them up. When I do my photo conferences, I always try to book a workshop somewhere near where I did my photo conference, a few months down the road, and usually I'll sell out that workshop just from speaking at that conference. So that kind of helps, market and promote your workshop when you're in the area. Open your own gallery. That's a huge, huge thing that you want to avoid because that will really suck up a lot of dollars. If you think getting an art show business costs a lot, opening a gallery will cost you way more. And the problem with open a little local hometown gallery, it gets back to that foot traffic thing I was telling you about. Remember I said that all the galleries I was in, none of them are in business anymore? Well, you're not going to be in business after about a year either. The problem is that, again, low foot traffic. And if you did make some decent sales in the beginning, they won't last long because basically the people that live in your area are going to visit your gallery, buy what they need, and then they're going to be done. And unless you have new customers coming in, you're not going to sell anything. So once you sell to all the local people that know about you, then your sales are going to run out. The people that are making money in galleries are the guys like Peter Lick and some of those people that are in the tourist traps. See, Peter Lick was smart. He went and opened his gallery in Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas, and he's got 2 more galleries in Las Vegas. He's got 3 galleries in different casinos in Las Vegas. He's got galleries in Key West and Maui and all these tourist traps. So what happens is, say if you have a gallery at Caesar's Palace, you have thousands of people, again, large amount of foot traffic walking through there on a daily basis, and you have new customers from every single day coming in there. And so you're not just drawing from the same people that live by you. They're bringing in new customers on a daily basis all year round. And those people that go to those locations generally have a little money so they can buy, some artwork. So there are people that have open galleries that have done okay, but again, they're usually people that open them in some kind of a tourist trap where you have year-round, tourists, not this tourist trap like in Michigan here where it's only seasonal. Because you'll make great money maybe from May until September, but then what do you do the rest of the year when the shops are closing up for the winter? So that's the only way I would ever open a gallery, is to be in some kind of a touristy area where you have a daily huge amount of foot traffic all year round with new people coming in all the time. But I would never ever spend the money to open a gallery in a small hometown, or I live in a town of 125,000 people, and I wouldn't attempt it, because most of the people that I know have gone that route or tried it, didn't make it. Usually within about 9-10 months they were closing the doors. So that's a big undertaking, and that would be the least one I would go for. So those streams of income that I talked about, so when you add up all these different things, you can make a living at it, but you gotta do a lot of different things, and you gotta find ways to bring in money from different areas, because any one of those things that I talked about, it's pretty hard to make it on just one of them. The workshops would be the one that you would have the most success making an income off of, but all the other little streams are just little extra dollars that come in to help out, but very tough to make a living at any of the other ones. So if you look at most nature photographers that are making this as a living, you'll find that they're teaching workshops. That's how they're making their money. But again, teaching workshops is something that takes you years and years of developing, a following. And luckily we can do that through the internet, because honestly I wouldn't be here talking to you right now if it wasn't for the internet, because there would be no way I would be able to get my name out there. Just impossible. So the internet has opened up this, great place for us to market, but of course you also have a lot more photographers trying to do the same thing I'm doing. Just like I told you when I wrote that article about making money, selling prints, 2,000 people came in to view that, whereas all my other blog posts, if you're lucky, you get anywhere from 100 to 200 to maybe 300 at the tops. But everybody's looking to try to make money at this, and of course, the more people that are coming into this, the harder it is to sell workshops and to sell prints and to do all this. Over the last year or so, I talked to a lot of pros that are teaching workshops and been doing it for 20 years, and they're saying that their attendances have been down this last year. They're not filling their workshops like they have in the past, and so I would say, well, what do you think the problem is? Well, there's too many photographers teaching workshops. so that becomes a problem, and it may be something that will be just like stock photography eventually. There'll be so many people doing it, and the prices will get so cheap that nobody can make any money anymore. So hopefully that won't happen, but it's just part of the internet and the digital, and it's the way it's going now. So anyways, I have to do my shameless self-promotion. So I do teach macro workshops across the country, and I have a 3-day macro boot camp, and then I have a new 2-day called creating macro art from capture through post-processing, I think it's called. And then I have a macro photo conference, which it will be my 3rd annual in 2016. It's held in Seekonk, Massachusetts. Last year we had people from 16 different states. There's only 100 people that I allow into this photo conference. We have 8 different speakers. This year we got Tony Sweet and myself and Rob Shepard, who was the editor of Outdoor Photographer magazine, and Kathy Adams Clark, and we've got a guy out of Canada that does snowflake and water drop photography, and it's just a great thing, and we have a lot of fun. And then my macro mentoring online courses and my ebooks and all that stuff you can find either through my tinylandscapes.com. My blog is mikemotesblog.com, and then my storefront is macrostoreonline.com. So I wish I could be more encouraging on making money in the photo business, but it is just a very tough business to make money at. And nature photography is probably one of the toughest to make money at. You know, wedding photographers, there's a lot of weddings out there. Of course, there's a lot of wedding photographers, but you know, the commercial photography, things like that, I guess you could probably find some business in. But nature photography is tough because, again, the people that are making a living at it are basically teaching workshops, and in order to teach workshops, you've got to spend a lot of years marketing and getting your name out there and developing a following. Plus, like I was saying, it's harder to become a standout in photography nowadays. Back in 2004, like I said, when I was posting my images at the time, you know, my images kind of stood out amongst the other photographers. But now I can't say that my images stand out. I see images that look every bit as good as what I do being posted on my groups and in these websites. So my images don't stand out like they used to, and it's and part of that, like I said, is just because there's so much information out there now that people can gather to learn to be better photographers, and so there's just a lot more really good photographers out today than there were, you know, back in 2000, early 2000s when people were getting into this digital. So, anyways, if you decide that you want to attempt this, I wish you all the best, and I think it's good to know all these facts so that you don't get down on yourself if you do attempt it and it doesn't succeed. That it's very tough to make it in this business. So, okay, I'm all done.
Thanks, Mike.
Mark?
Yeah, you folks have any questions? Put them in the question box. I got a few questions here for you, Mike, to start things off.
Sure. Yep.
The first question is Impact member Bernie, and Bernie asks, what type of images sell the best, a straight image or one that has more artistic effects added to the image?
Well, what I found in the art show business is that I started out wanting to show all my abstracts and my soft focus flowers and all that. That lasted about a year, and they all got taken out of the booth because they didn't sell. People were looking at them saying, you know, why are they out of focus? And they were trying to figure out what things were. And what I found was the images that sold the best were images that people could connect to. So when I would sell an image at an art show, I would ask the people why they were buying it to hang on their walls. And what they would tell me is that, well, there was always a story and there was always a connection to the subject matter. Lily of the Valley was one that was really popular, where I had different stories that people told me about the flower. They had some connection to a lily of the valley, and leaves were some of my best-selling images were leaf images, and people love leaves. They were able to connect with leaves really well. So if you can find connections, that's the best way. So like if I was going to go back in the art show business here in Michigan, what I would do is probably go around and take pictures of all the local icons throughout the state of Michigan, because people have connections to those icons. They've been up north and they've vacationed in those areas and they've seen those things, and those are the things that seem to be selling right now in the art show business. I actually know a photographer that does that, and he does pretty well. But you have to find things that people can connect with. They're just not selling art abstracts and soft focus flowers. That just bombed terribly for me.
I think that's what you call emotive photography. I mean, a lot of times I'll post something on Facebook and somebody will reply and say that made me cry, or that made me smile, or made me
Right.
laugh. Things that people can
Exactly.
actually relate to, and that's what I kind of shoot for.
Yeah.
Okay, Bonnie, Impact member Bonnie asks, how do you get the images to the magazines?
Yeah. A lot of the magazines will have in their magazine, in the front part, there'll be some little box that has submitting, images or submitting articles, things like that. And basically, I sent when I was looking to get stuff published, I would send it to the editor magazine, and they would generally start off with what they call a query letter, where you would send a query letter to the magazine, the editor of the magazine, and tell them basically the name of the title of the article, and then explain what the article was going to cover, and then you'd want to say how it's going to benefit the readers that are going to read this, what they're going to benefit by this article. Now, they're not looking for articles that just, your vacation to the Grand Canyon, They're looking for articles that are going to teach something to the readers, just like I said about my blog. It has to have some value to the reader, some kind of learning thing. And so there has to be something in there that are going to teach somebody something. And then a lot of times, they like it if it revolves around some equipment, because what happens is they're trying to draw in advertisers to their magazine. Now, if you're doing an article and you're going to talk about lens babies, or you're going to talk about certain pieces of equipment, that's going to help draw that company that makes that product to advertise in that issue, because each month a magazine will send out a letter or an email to all their advertisers, and they actually tell them, this is what's going to be in our upcoming magazine, these articles. And if any of those articles happen to coincide with the type of equipment they sell, or that advertiser will want to advertise in that issue. So if you're going to send in articles that are just going to be about composition, they're not all that interested a lot of times in that kind of stuff. It has to have something to do with some equipment in there too, so they can sell to advertisers. So that's something you have to keep in mind when you're sending articles out. But generally, all mine went right directly to the editor of the magazine, and then the editor determined whether they're going to put that in the magazine or not. Yep.
Thanks, Mike. Joanne asked, do you suggest e-commerce versus via your website, or do you prefer to use it just as an extended business card?
Well, the website is again, as I said, I haven't sold one image on that website this whole year. The website is there to bring in people to workshops, and also to sell ebooks. So the people come in, they view all my images, and they say, oh, this guy's got some nice images. Oh, I see he's got workshops here, and I see he's going to be in my area. I like what I see. I like the images, so I think I could maybe learn some new things from this guy. So that's kind of what the website's for, and also for selling ebooks, macro how-to ebooks. So that's, or maybe the online courses. So the images are there just to, impress the people, hopefully, that come to the site. And then that is your little tool to get them to possibly take a workshop, hopefully. But as far as selling images to those people, they're all photographers. They're not going to buy my images. They have their own images.
Okay, Mike, thanks. Diane says, where do I go to find photo sites? You had mentioned photo sites in the beginning. I think she wants to kind of know what the definition or what exactly you're referring to.
Yeah,
And examples.
the three sites that are what they call critique sites for nature photographers. One is called naturephotographers.net. The second one is called naturescapes.net. And the third one is called birdphotographers.net, which is not just for bird photographers. It also has landscape and wildlife and macro on there. But those would be the three that you'd want to check out if you want to look for critique sites where you can post your images and get critiques. Facebook has all kinds of photo groups. There's just hundreds of photo groups. So if you go to Facebook, if you're a member of Facebook, and you just type in, macro photography in the top part there, you'll find all these macro photography groups or photo groups. You'll find different people that have macro photo groups that you can post your images, or you'll find, if you're a landscape photographer, wildlife photographer, you can find all kinds of different sites for posting your images. There's abstract sites and flower sites, and there's macro sites, and there's all kinds of, there's ones for just bugs. There's just an enormous amount of photo sites right there on Facebook, and they don't cost anything. And there's hundreds and hundreds of people. I've got almost 5,000 people that are on my let's see your best shot site, and I had thousands on my other sites. So those are all places where you can go and post your images to let people see your images, and then you get, also it's a great learning tool, because again, you can study all the compositions, you can study the subject matter, and so you can learn from that. If you go on to 500px is another one that's an amazing site, 500px.com. If you ever think you're really getting to be a hot photographer, just go to that site, and that'll knock you down a bunch of notches. I mean, the photography on there is just beyond amazing. I mean, it's incredible, the stuff that you see on that site, 500px.com. And there's other sites out there. If you just type in Google search just for photography websites, or photo sharing sites, what's the one off of Yahoo? Flickr? Flickr is another one. There's just thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are on Flickr. So those are all places that you can go and post images and view other people's images.
Okay, Mike. MPEG member Bonnie asked, what was the name of the printer you used?
I use the Epsons. I found that Epsons for me worked the best. I had owned Canons, I had owned HPs, and I never had any good results that I was happy with the Canons and the HPs, but Epsons were right out of the box were always the best. And I've owned 7 or 8 Epson printers. The one that I have is a 7880, which is a few years old now. I think they have the 7900 now or 7980. But it's a 24-inch wide printer, and it runs about $3,000 for that printer. But I made that back in no time, selling 24 by 36-inch prints out of that thing. So it was, it paid for itself real quickly when I was in the art show business. But Epson, what I found was the best printers from my experience, because I had really bad luck with Canon and HPs.
Okay, great. I'm an Epson printer fan myself, so great. The next one is more of just a comment about the member's experience with your teachings.
Mm-hmm.
Julie says, MPEG member Julie says, Mike, first I want to be thankful for Mark and the digital photography arena and for the beginnings and photography group he started. I'm a marketing coordinator for a national corporation, so I understand where you're coming from on the online aspect, and I've seen many corporate research studies to support things you mentioned. I love your humble beginnings. Good that you remembered your beginnings. Thank you for all your helpful hints and all that you have to offer. I look forward to visiting sites you mentioned. What I loved about the first time I heard you is that you work with the equipment that you have. I too have the same Tamron lens that you mentioned the first time I heard you, and I'm still unashamed to use it. Thanks again,
Mm-hmm.
Mike, and good webinar.
Thanks. And that's the other thing is that a lot of people are surprised to find out that I still use my D7000 from like 3-4 years ago. It's an outdated camera now, and it's discontinued. And people say, well, why aren't you using a pro camera? Well, because 75% of the people that come into my workshops are using cameras under $1,000. And if I'm using a pro, body, $8,000 pro body, those people leave my workshop saying, well, Mike's, images look great because he's using a pro camera. I'm not going to get images that good because my camera is only $600-700. Well, my camera, when it was discontinued, only sold for $899. So, I tell people, hey, if you're not getting images as good as I'm getting them, then there's operator error going on. You don't have to spend a lot of money on a camera to shoot macro photography. Now, I'm not going to tell you that my camera is going to be a great bird photography camera, a great wildlife photography, or sports photography. It doesn't shoot high frames per second. It doesn't shoot real high, ISO with low noise, but those aren't things that we require in macro photography. So we don't have to spend a lot of money on equipment to be a good macro photography and produce images that are top quality images. So that's important to the people that come to my workshops, to know that the equipment I use is not any better than the equipment they have. And I tell them, I say, hey, I'll take any one of your cameras and produce professional quality images out of them. And that makes them feel better because, they don't want to hear that they've spent $600-700 on a camera and they're not going to produce good images. They want to know that they're going to get good quality out of that camera.
I agree. I get asked all the time, man, you must have some camera body. when in fact, it's really the lens that, is where you should put your money anyway.
Yeah, but there are certain cameras that are specific to certain types of photography.
Correct.
If you need to
Sure.
shoot 10 frames per
Yep.
second or whatever,
Yep.
then you need to spend more money. If you want to shoot 125,000 ISO, then you need to spend more money.
Correct.
And so for certain types of photography, they may require that you're going to need to spend higher dollars. But as far as macro, we're really lucky that we don't have to spend big bucks to do what we do. We don't have to shoot high frames per second and shoot high ISOs and all that kind of stuff. So we're not in that position to have to go out and spend tons of money on our equipment. So
That's correct. Okay, we got a few thank yous here. Marianne says thank you, MPEG member Marianne. Sue Gilbert says thanks so much, Mike. Hope you make it to the Northwest for some workshops 2016.
hmm
And
try to up there.
then Sue asked, how do you protect your images on all these sites?
I don't. We post them in small file size. My file size is maybe 100 KBs, which is a real small file size. So if anybody wanted to use it as far as for printing, it wouldn't have a lot of value to blow up the print. Now they could obviously use it on the web somewhere because it looks great on the web, but outside of that, to print a small file that small, it would be very low quality. So that kind of protects it. I don't do any copywriting. I can honestly say, for the years that I've been doing this, I've never had anybody take one of my images and use it for anything. I can't actually say that I know anybody that's had anybody's images stolen. I mean, it's not that it doesn't happen out there. It does happen. But I don't personally know anybody that I can actually say that had an image stolen that they had to go after them in court or anything like that. I've also had lawyers tell me that I've had lawyers in my workshops that I've discussed this with, and talked about going after somebody if someone stole your image, and basically the lawyers even told me most every one of them said that it's not worth going after them. The money you would spend on the lawyer costs would usually it would be more than you would recoup in the sale of whatever it was that you were going after them for, because unless it was someone like Apple or someone like some huge company that used your image, you just wouldn't get enough dollars out of them, because most of the people that steal an image, they're not really making any big bucks off of whatever they used it for, so there's no money to be recouped hardly. And most lawyers that I've talked to said that, and generally in most cases, that you wouldn't even bother going after the person. The only thing you do is send them a letter saying to stop using it, but very difficult to recoup any money out of it. And then if you did want to sue somebody, then you need to have it, copyrighted with the Library of Congress. And so now you got to copyright all your images to get the maximum benefit when you go to sue someone. Otherwise, if you don't have it copyrighted, you can only sue for certain amounts, I guess. And so I just never wanted to bother going through all that hassle. You know what? If you want to steal my image, go ahead. I don't really care. I'm not tracking anybody down. Nobody. I'm not getting rich off these images, and nobody else is going to get rich off of them either.
I wholeheartedly agree. Chris, MPEG member Chris says, thanks, Mike. Always great to hear you speak. Bonnie followed up and said, great webinar. Thanks for putting this together. Ken says, thank you. John says, thank you. And Art says, thanks for the webinar, Mike. I enjoyed your recent St. Augustine workshop. Wish you success in that follow-up. Art. And let's see here. Les says, why don't I see a live image? Only the 3 website URLs. I'm not sure what he's referring to. Otherwise, does anybody else have any questions? Okay. Becky says, thanks, Mike. Excellent information, Beth. Okay, well, I think we're done, Mike. I don't have any more questions for you. Thanks again for helping us out. I appreciate your support of MPEG, and maybe we'll have you back next year. And great to have you here in my home in Yellowstone. That was kind of fun, and I think you're going to be blogging about your Yellowstone visit here soon anyway. So
yeah. I hope to get a blog out. It's only taken me like 2 months now.
I know. Exactly.
Yeah. I'll
Well,
get one out there one of these
I
days.
think we're all done. And thanks again,
All
Mike,
right.
for everything. And I'll send you the
Yeah.
link so you can send it to everybody who didn't attend. So,
Thanks, and thanks to all that attended.
hey,
Appreciate
you
it.
bet. You bet. Thanks,
Okay.
guys. Have a good evening.
All right. Bye
Good
now.
night. Bye bye.